Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I tile this simple shower niche in this bathroom. It's going to be cut out of a full tile so that it will look pretty minimalistic with nice clean lines using a large format porcelain tile. I've already tiled the wall up to it so it's all ready to go. The challenge will be cutting the square out of the tile neat, but once that's done it's super easy, and I'll add the tile trim with the thin side facing to add that minimal finish. Right, let's jump into it and see how we go. As I've got the trim thin side facing, the outer tile will overlap the niche, so I like to put the back piece in first as it can be hard to get in otherwise, and I don't want to chip a cut that I'm probably going to put my heart and soul into in a minute. So with my tape I measure the height and width, and then I can cut the tile to size on my Sigma cutter. I will end up shrinking this niche a little bit, but the back tile can just be cut to what's there at the moment. I check that it fits, then just spread the back with a 10mm trowel and stick it in with a good push and a wiggle. This is the metal trim that I'll be using. It's a graphite grey to match the wall tiles. So instead of fitting it like this, I'll be laying it like this, thin side facing, which means I need to overlap the outer tile by a tile's thickness plus adhesive. To mark the niche cut, I draw a level line through the bottom with an overhang of about 12mm. The niche height needs to be 30cm once tiled. So I measure that off of my level line, and I can now draw a level line through the top, which I'll be lowering later by adding some backerboard. I've got no constraints with the width. It's 37cm at the moment, so I shrink it down to 34cm. That will allow for my overhang on both sides. So I take two measurements from my tile trim where the end of my finished tile will sit. So that's the width marked. Then for the height, coming off of my bottom finished tiles level clip, I take the nearest two hole measurements that are near to my lines. And there we go, that's all the measurements I need to mark the box on my tile for the niche. Then as the tile is a cut, I just mark and cut the tile to size first. Now I've got the cut, these are the measurements I took. I use a good sharp pencil for accuracy. I start marking them on the tile and connecting them up to make a box. It's really important here to make sure you are accurate, even trying to hold the tape as straight as possible, as you don't want your niche to look pissed. So I take my time here to make sure all my marks are good and I run my lines through them accurately. Right, on to the fun bit. So I use a decent porcelain disc for my angle grinder. I'll link the ones I use in the description. Always make sure it's the right way. The branding faces the grinder on this disc, but most discs will have arrows to show you which way it goes. So now I just start going around my box lines. I always keep the open face of the grinder, left side if you're right-handed, against the edge I want to keep good. You can see the line better and you will avoid chipping. So you'll see me dance around the tile, keeping that side of the blade against the visible good edges. I go around all the lines first a bit before going too far in, keeping even pressure across the cut. Then I will go around going fully in and lifting the tile to help me get into the corners as far as I can go. It goes without saying, make sure you always have your mask, glasses and ear defenders for this, as it can be a dusty and loud process. Now I've gone through the front as far as I can go, I need to finish the corners from the back of the tile. So I gently flip it over and you can see here what's left to take out, which can only be done from the back to not damage the face. I just go very slowly here, just checking for daylight to make sure I don't overshoot the box on the front. On the back you have to overshoot like this to remove the corner. At this point the middle would normally fall out, but this one, being a big piece, is being stubborn. I very gently lay it back down so I can work on the face. I don't want the piece falling out mid-air, as that may chip my cut. So next I go for cutting across to weaken it and release pressure. And you'll see here the vibration finally breaks it out. For anyone doing this, you'll know that this part is great satisfaction. It's off in one piece with nothing broken. Next I just need to clean up the corners with the disc, otherwise my tile trim won't sit correctly, and any edge with bits of tile left for good measure. And that is now all good. So spreading the wall here with a 6mm trowel, I spread 10mm on the back of the tile and get it straight in before I knock it and break it. Now it's just a case of giving it a clean, a gentle push and a wiggle, leveling it up and adding the level clip tops. As it's quite a fragile cut, I'm just making sure I'm not putting too much pressure on it though when I'm pushing it in. It's a very sad day if your 15-minute cut breaks. Once I'm happy, I just give it a proper good clean up. These edges aren't too bad, but you could also give them a rub with a diamond block to get them as smooth as possible. You can see the overhang now and the top, which I'll pack out with some backerboard to bring it down a bit. Great, that's the tricky bit all done. Next on to the easy bit. For the trim, it will be both sides first, then top and bottom. So I mark both sides with my tape, point to point, and just cut them off straight with a metal blade on my angle grinder. I give the tile edge a rub, and same with the trim for any sharp bits. Then I can just drag the adhesive that's behind the tile onto the trim to fix it in place. Always clean the back of your trim if you're not setting your inner tiles the same day. Otherwise, once it's set, it will block your tiles sitting correctly. Then I just repeat the process on the right hand side, fixing it and cleaning it the same way. I give the top and bottom a rub with my block. Then I measure my top and bottom trims and get those stuck in. Once you're at this stage, you can leave the internal tiles if you want, as long as it's all cleaned up. They can be fixed whenever now. But today I'm going to get the whole lot done in one go. It's always good here to go around and check your trim is all nice and smooth, and you can always tape it in place here to keep it secure. Next, I just mark my side tiles, then cut them off, spread the backs with some adhesive and stick them in. I give them a good clean up, then I use my square to check that they are straight, and I like to use some tile wedges to hold the tiles secure against the trim. So the sides are looking good and nice and smooth, now it's just the top and bottom to go. I cut and spread some 6mm backer board for the top and push that in, followed by the tile. Then for the bottom tile, as it's in a shower, it needs to have a fall so the water runs back out. I spread some adhesive on the surface, then load up the tile, give it a good push and a wiggle, followed by a clean. I check it's got a good fall on it. I'm normally looking for about 7mm. I try and leave the front edge about 1mm higher than the bottom trim, just so the water flows off a bit easier. You can tape your trim if you need to make sure it's all nice and aligned until it's set. But that's this minimal looking niche all done. The only tricky bit is really cutting out the square. Everything else from there is pretty straightforward. And now it matches with this complete minimalistic bathroom. Now, you may have noticed this funky wonky wall on my left here. It was in a terrible state and I've got a video right here on how I sorted it out. Take care guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.